Hey there everyone, I hope you're all safe. Again, sorry about the noise. I've mentioned on other videos that I've got machines running in my kitchen. The dishwasher's running this time whilst I'm making the intro. So this recipe we're going to be covering the washed flour seitan method. About a year ago, maybe a wee bit longer, there was a massive craze online because of a TikTok video of washed flour seitan. What it does is this recipe and the way you make this type of seitan, it gives you the really long, stringy, muscly like fibres within the seitan. So this is my contribution to that pool of knowledge. I've watched various different people's videos on it since the TikTok phase. I've been making this for a wee while now. I absolutely love it. It is time consuming compared to making seitan from vital wheat gluten. It does take up a longer period of time to make it. Although the actual process is still quite fast, it's just there's a long amount of stages to go through and then leaving things alone to get the best from it. It's better if you really want to have it, make it the day before so it's ready for the next day, because you'll get the most out of the mouth texture from it. So without further ado, we'll crack on and make it. I'll stick a link to one of the favourite videos that I found. I forgot the fella's name, I apologise, but I'll stick a link to his video because his was one of the most useful when I was learning how to do it. Although there's a whole bunch out there and they all are very useful, very informative, and I've got different things to teach you from it. But we'll crack on and let's make some washed flour seitan. So the first thing we're looking to do is to measure out 560 millilitres of water, or 2 1/4 cups of water. Bear in mind, American cups are different from UK cups and I'm using UK cup sizes. And then we're looking for 925 grams, which is 6 cups of very strong bread flour. By that I mean flour with at least 14 grams of protein, because it's the protein which is really going to give us the stretch and create those muscle fibres in amongst the gluten. So that's what we're looking for, is 14 grams protein or higher. And then all you need to do is add the flour to the water. We're then going to knead for 15 minutes so we end up with a really smooth dough at the end. And remember to add your dough hook. Dough! And a smooth dough exactly like you see here is what we're looking for. No lumps, no bumps, just perfectly smooth dough. So after removing from the machine, you can see how easy it works. We're going to work it into a ball just by taking and tucking and pushing with our fingers and our heels by pushing into the bottom. We're then going to submerge it completely in water and we're going to leave it that way for between 1 and 2 hours until it is completely pliable. We're looking for a really soft, pliable dough that when you press it between your fingers, it just completely gives away on you. Whilst that dough is resting submerged, what we can go on and do is start creating a paste for our braising mix. So the first thing we want to add is our onion powder, of which we need 1 1/2 tablespoons. Then 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, and as I've mentioned before, probably my favourite spice, smoked paprika, and we're looking for 2 tablespoons. Then basil, which is going to be 1/2 tablespoon, and ground black pepper, we're looking for 1 teaspoon. A little bit of umami, we're adding nutritional yeast, and it's going to be 2 tablespoons. And then we're going to add a couple of stock cubes. I use OXO brand, so we're using 2 cubes crumbled. Different stock cubes give different concentrations. Then grab yourself a spatula and just mix the spices up together, just so everything's easy to bring together as a paste. And the first of the liquids we're going to add is liquid smoke, and it's going to be 2 tablespoons. And then some Maggi seasoning, and we're going to be adding 1 tablespoon. And our soy sauce is 2 tablespoons. And again, grab your spatula and mix it together into a paste. Just take your time, break down any of the lumps by adding the little amount of liquid that we have, and we're not putting the water in yet. This lets us break it all down and we get a lovely smooth paste, which makes it much easier when we add our water to get a nice even distribution with no lumps. So once our 2 hours is over, we're going to drain the initial steeping water and we're going to add some fresh water, and we're going to start kneading. But as you see, if you want to taste, you press your fingers in, and if this is how your dough reacts, no spring back, it just moves, it's really pliable, it holds its position, it's absolutely ready for us to start kneading the starch out of it. Now, whereas we were looking to completely cover when we were steeping the dough, this time we're just putting in maybe half a bowl's worth so that when we knead it and our hands are in there, we aren't spilling all the starch water out the side. Because we can reserve this starch water, which is what we're going to do, and we're going to use what would be a waste product in a different set of ingredients. As you knead the dough, you will see the starch come out into the water, and the water is going to get thicker to the feel. It's going to get really opaque, and it's going to take on a milky look and almost milky texture. And once it's achieved that texture, once it's really thick and heavy, we're going to take and we're going to drain off that starch water. We're then going to grab a sieve or a colander, whatever you have to hand, dump the dough into it and let any of the rest of the liquid drain through. We're not looking for any of the bits of the flour or the dough to get into our starch water, hence why we're draining it through the colander or draining it through a sieve. The first one, your dough is going to be held together quite well, but as we progress, your dough is going to start coming apart before coming together. So for your second, third and maybe fourth drainage, if you're holding on to your starch water, it has to go through the colander from the very start. The very first one, you can generally drain off a bit of the starch water and then introduce the colander or sieve. And from there, it's just a case of repeating the process. You can see already that it's becoming stringy. It will get stringier and then it will start coming back together as more of the starch comes away. Don't panic when you see this. First few times I did, I'm like, am I doing it right? But you start to get the feel of it, you start to understand what stage you're at as you need it. Overall process for me takes generally 18 to 20 minutes of knead, drain, repeat, knead, drain, repeat. So once again, I'm draining it through. You can see some of the dough getting left behind. Don't worry about it. You're going to have a few little bits that you're going to miss out on, but it's not going to be much. It's going to be a few grams. But just drain it, squeeze it through, try and get as much of that starch water reserved as possible because, as I say, we can use this in other recipes. No point wasting it if you don't have to. Now, I had considered cutting out this little bit of the wash cycle, but just for sake of clarity, so you can see all the cycles I went through, I kept this in. It's the only reason this bit's here. I don't have much to add. And we can see here it's now become really stringy, it's falling apart easily, nothing's holding together. We're at the right stage, it will soon now start coming back together as we get the rest of the starch removed. And there we go, our seitan has now come together again. It's holding its shape, it's sticking together. That tells us we've really removed most of the starch that we're going to. There'll be a little bit more starch to remove, but not much. Once we're at this stage, it's possible to leave it, but it's better to remove a little bit more starch, in my opinion. Any of the water now that we have left over, we're just going to be ditching because it's too low a concentration of starch now in our water. So it's just a case of knead it, remove some more. It's going to be an awful lot less opaque, but as we see, everything's again holding together. From this stage onwards, the more starch we remove, the chewier our texture is going to be. If we leave it like this, we're going to have a really soft mouthfeel, so it just depends on the way you like your seitan, how much starch to remove from this point. Be careful, if we do remove too much starch, it almost gets rubbery, your seitan. So we don't want to completely remove every single last gram of starch, but we are removing most of it. So you'll get used to the way you like your seitan and decide when you want to stop from this point onwards. For me, I gave it one more cycle as, yes, there was still quite a bit of starch come out there. I tried to show you on camera the opacity was less, but it's not really noticeable on camera. Visually, when you're up close, you can see the opacity was less. But still quite a bit of starch come out of it, so it got one more cycle through kneading, and then that was us done. We are then going to take and rest our dough in a colander for 40 minutes to let any of the water that's sitting in the dough just drain out of it. So just sit it in a colander, let it drain out. That allows the gluten fibres to rest but come together, and it lets the water drain out. And as we see here, there was actually a reasonable amount of water came out of that, which had we just pushed on, we wouldn't have got out of the seitan dough. Now, to start emulating the muscle fibres that we're trying to create, because we're creating an emulation of muscle fibre, we're going to take and we're going to stretch our seitan in one direction, and we're then going to twist it, fold it over in itself and then twist it like a rope. We're just trying to put a stretch in so that the fibres all pull in the one direction to start emulating muscle fibre. We're then going to sit that down after we've twisted it, and we're going to let it rest for 10 minutes. Now, after giving it that 10 minutes to rest, we're going to stretch it out into a rectangular shape. Just use your fingers and the palms of your hands to push and gently take it all pretty much in the one direction, so we're stretching it out across its length and widening it slightly. Overall, we're looking for about 40 centimetres long and about 15 centimetres wide. But just gently tuck, press and pull. Don't go crazy at it, just nice, slow, gentle stretching movements until we've got a rectangle in that sort of ballpark of size. And once achieved, we're then going to take our knife and cut two slices 5 centimetres apart, leaving attached at the top around 5 centimetres. We're then going to take and we're going to braid our seitan together. Now, the way we want to do that is we want to braid it just like hair, taken from the outside over onto the inside, but use your fingertips to slide up into the braid, and that will help tighten it as you go. So outside to middle each time, just like as if you were braiding hair. And then slide your fingers up, tuck and tighten, and repeat until we're at the very bottom of the braid. Once we're at the bottom of the braid, we're going to take our ends and we're going to tuck them inside the actual braids that we've created, and that will finish the knot off. And once we have knotted it, which is probably the hardest part here, is just trying to peel open one of the braids that we've created and tucking and pulling our ends through. But once we have achieved that, we're going to then let it rest for 10 minutes. And whilst our braid is resting, we're going to get ourselves 1.5 litres of boiled water. And we're going to take and we're going to very slowly add that to our paste, stirring as we go. And that'll help the paste break down, ensuring there's no lumps throughout our braising liquid and all the spices are broken down, ready to add their rich flavours to the seitan. And now that at least 10 minutes have passed, we're going to take and we're going to knot our braid. Just take and stretch it out, and then take and tie a knot in the centre and pull it taut. And repeat each time until we can't tie any more knots. And just like we did with our braids, we're then going to tuck our ends into the knot to finish it off. Then we want to add our seitan to the braising liquid in the slow cooker. Hopefully it's fully covered. If it's not, you may need to turn it over if it doesn't settle out whilst cooking. Most of the time it settles down as it's cooking, as we see here, but sometimes it doesn't settle out, so you may need to flip it over. And we're going to cook it like that for 2 hours at the highest heat on your slow cooker. We then want to remove it from our slow cooker and add it to a dish such as this casserole dish here. We're then going to pour the braising liquid over the seitan, and we're going to let this cool, and then we're going to keep it in the fridge for at least 8 hours, but ideally overnight. The longer you let seitan chill up to a point, the firmer the mouth texture you're going to have in your finished seitan. And once it's had the appropriate time to chill, remove it from the braising liquid so we know how to portion it out evenly. Give it a little weigh, but what we see here is about the average sort of weight you're going to find, but it's worthwhile checking just to see what you've got, and that way you can portion it out evenly. This will give you 6 portions at around the 450 grams mark. Now taking 2 forks, we're going to shred it, and this is here you're going to see how much of a great meaty texture we've actually created. You can see it ripping just like chicken. We've gone and created really good fibres by taking and pulling everything in the one direction, stretching, twisting and knotting. Each of those separate stages is what gave us this muscly fibrous texture that you see here. This meaty fibrous texture that you see here. So once shredded, there's lots of different ways we can cook it. I tend to prefer to bake it in the oven in a spice mix. If we're doing that, it's 180 degrees Celsius, and we're doing it for 9 minutes, tossing it, and then another 9 minutes just so we're getting even heat distribution across it. But you can fry it, you can grill it, you can not shred it at all and cut it into steaks and bread it and then create yourself something like a KFC. It just depends on how you want to use it. It's limitless almost how you can actually use it. It is better though if you actually cook it off from this stage. Otherwise it's a little bit gelatinous and tastes, how would I put it, like chicken leg drums, like the drums of legs. Whereas if you cook it off, it gets more breast-like. So there we go. That was the washed flour seitan method. Now, what would be a cooking video without is actually making something at the end. So just for a wee surprise, there's something that we can make. Can we get this in without spilling it everywhere? I don't want to. I think you might be getting this in shot quite well, I'm not sure. But anyway, I've made this up as a pulled chicken burger, and let's take a bite. Too big a bite for camera. Absolutely goddamn delicious. You can make this seitan into so many different things. Make yourself some KFC burgers, make them into steaks for the KFC, shred it like I've done here. There's so many options. Fry it, oven cook it. These ones were oven cooked. 9 minutes, toss it, another 9 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius, mixed in with a whole lot of spices. The spices I've used this time is for pulled pork, because you can do so many things with it. Chicken flavour, pork flavour, whatever you want. It is a fantastic product. Go make some. See you later. Take care. I'm off to have dinner. Bye for now, folks.